When did the I crave attention kid go too far? Little brother is a few years younger than me. He used to come into my room to harass me all the time and my parents never allowed me to have a lock. He was around 10 when I started propping a piano stand under my doorknob to keep people out. I'm so sick of people saying it was a fire hazard. You'd use whatever you could too if your parents never knocked and your brother used to shoot you with airsoft guns. Little brother pushed the door and the piano stand was at the knob. I ignored it before all I heard was the loudest bang followed by a thud. I opened the door to see him laying on the floor, holding his face, and crying. Apparently, he decided that he could break down my door like in the movies by throwing himself against it after running from down the hall. But, this dumbass didn't just throw his shoulder or kick it. He threw his entire body against it like a squirrel going for a tree. Arms and legs out, face fucking first. I got blamed for it but it was worth it. Only time I ever laughed that hard at his expense again was when he tried to fart into my room and shat himself about 2 years later. He was a jerk. I had a couple of pet goats and he would come over and bully them all the time. He'd poke them through the fence with sticks, throw rocks at them, spook them with loud noises ... but he'd never go into the pen. He was too scared of them. He should have known better. He was 16. One day we're all inside and we hear this blood-curdling scream. In comes the kid, screaming at the top of his lungs. The goat. The goat is after me. Help. We turn to see the big billy goat staring at him through the sliding glass door. Every once in a while it'd headbutt the glass. Now this was a very docile animal. He'd have never hurt a fly ... but he was out for that boy's blood. It turns out that the kid had been torturing the goat. He had him pinned up against the wall of the pen throwing rocks and sticks at his testicles to see if he could hit them. The goat came after him, scaled the fence, and chased him across 3 acres of land and into the house. The kid waited for 2 hours for the goat to go away, but it never did. Anytime he opened the door to try to sneak away, the goat was right there trying to attack him. Eventually the goat disappeared and the kid tried to sneak out the window feet first ... and once again started screaming, because the goat was right there head-butting his backside as he climbed out. It was absolutely liberating. I was at my friend's house. I was bored and started playing Portal 2 on his Xbox. After a while my other friend's sister, who mind you treated attention like a drug, burst into the room and starts screaming at me like we were dating and in a fight. My friend was there too and just watched. Every time I would tell her to leave she would get louder. There was this girl for a while that had this huge crush on me, and she didn't seem to realize that she had been a total jerk to me for most of my life and that I really disliked her. Finally she decided to get my attention by stealing my $300 leather jacket and saying that she wouldn't give it back unless I went out with her. So I contacted her mom and told her that if she didn't intervene, then my parents were going to press charges. The day after she gave my jacket back, she sent me this long-ass text talking about how I hurt her so badly, and it would take a long time to earn back her trust. I replied by saying I don't want you to trust me. I want you to leave me alone. And we haven't spoken since. Faked her own kidnapping as a senior prank. Even got the attention of Amber Alert. Edit, my bad, didn't give the whole story. I was being a lazy shit when I posted this but here is my recollection of events. Well this is from my freshman year of HS, was told by a relative who was a senior at the time and that was a while ago so some parts may be fuzzy. Here we go. So that year many of the senior pranks were the usual generic things, toilet paper, the works. So this girl had this great idea for a prank and to be a standout ... faking her own kidnapping. Shortly after school one day in late May she called, texted her parents, and friends that were OIL, hysterically telling them that a stranger shoved her in a truck and drove off. She said she was scared and please help her. The parents and friends wasted no time and immediately notified police. Eventually the Amber Alert was issued. She was later tracked down and found that evening. Turns out she was at the next city over hanging out at her BF's house. She confessed and was promptly arrested. The following day it was discussed primarily by the upperclassmen and didn't make it to the freshman class until 6th period 2 days later. When I was in middle school, our friend group had an attention-seeking girl. She was generally alright for a middle schooler, hormonal teenage bitchiness aside, but we could all tell she was a bit troubled. She would lie about everything. She made up family members that didn't exist, tried to claim that every dark-haired, thin, female extra in a music video that only appeared for a split second was her, and all sorts of other things. For example, once, she dug a huge bloody hole in her lip and claimed that her brother punched her. Except, she didn't have a brother. One day, she started texting us about how she's drunk, cut her arms up, and is trying to put things like Sharpie ink into the cuts so that it would poison her and kill her. Naturally, we all panicked. One of the girls in our group decided to call the police, and she ended up being put in some sort of a mental hospital for a while. When she came back, she was super pissed at us and refused to speak to any of us. I guess she didn't get the reaction she wanted. She showed no physical signs of the kind of self-harm she claimed to have done to herself, either. I knew this girl in high school who was the queen of obnoxious and attention-seeking behavior. She was constantly trying to get people's attention, from screaming loudly in the hall to crying hard over sad memes at lunch. She was so annoying, but unfortunately, many people bought and fed into her histrionics. Let's call her Cry Face. I never really liked Cry Face. She came off as fake and kind of rude. I tried to ignore her for the most part, but the absolute turning point for me was her over-the-top behavior at a choir concert junior year. It was 20 minutes before the concert was set to begin, and all the kids were practicing getting on the risers. About 100 people. Suddenly, Cry Face's mom entered the auditorium, briskly walked to the director, and whispered something in his ear. The director nodded, and called Cry Face off the riser. When Cry Face got down, the mom whispered something to her. All of a sudden, Cry Face let out a blood-curdling scream and ran for the auditorium exit. She got halfway before collapsing to the ground wailing. She kept yelling, "Oh my God, oh hi, oh my God," over and over again. The mom came up behind her, pulled her up by the elbow, and rushed out. Naturally, everyone in the choir thought something horrible had happened. Some friends had texted her, but Cry Face would only respond with cryptic messages like "nothing will ever be the same and why couldn't it have been me?" Rumor spread that her father and little sister had burned to death in a car wreck. With a reaction like that, what else could it be? People were talking about organizing a carpool to attend the funeral and taking friendship shifts so someone would always be available to comfort her. I even agreed to a couple shifts. Hell, the entire choir said a group prayer for her before the concert, and this was at a public school. We were also worried. Now, these thoughts would have been incredibly kind if that was what happened. But nope. Turns out Cry Face's little sister was diagnosed with diabetes. The sister didn't go to the hospital. She didn't get sick and need medical attention. The family had only received the call that the scheduled medical tests came back positive for diabetes. The mom came to tell Cry Face because the family had decided to skip the choir concert so they could meet with the doctor and talk about the medical diagnosis. TLDR, girl finds out her little sister has diabetes and might get more attention than her. So girl makes high school choir think her family died in a car wreck. Started yelling and screaming purely in an annoying and antagonistic way during the school shooting drill. We had no idea it was a drill and the kid is just banging on walls and yelling, "Hey, we're in here, we're in here." As other students are in the corner and girls are crying because they truly believe this kid is going to get them killed. The teacher and student aides were trying to restrain him, and a friend of mine, again, still under the impression this was real, literally stood up to go punch his lights out to shut him up just as the drill ended and was revealed to be just a drill. Had the announcement come a few seconds later, that kid would have gotten knocked the hell out. Had an online friend claim while we were making an MC server that he was super rich and had a mansion, and like, 5 Bugattis and Ferraris and what the fuck ever. Showed us Inspect Element versions of his PayPal, posted his Google image ass cars all over the Discord, had a mightier than thou tone, abused his admin on the server a lot. He never once showed us his actual face or spoke on VC. Once he got busted, he dinged me pretending to be his brother saying that he had died. Then a couple days later his brother dinged me and said the doc's fucked up and has actually been in a coma for like 2 days but told me to tell you he feels betrayed that you never believed him. I blocked the fuck out of him when he dinged me a few months later saying sup bro, been a long time since I saw you. Had an online friend claim while we were making an MC server that he was super rich and had a mansion, and like 5 Bugattis and Ferraris and what the fuck ever. Showed us inspect element versions of his PayPal, posted his Google image ass cars all over the Discord, had a mightier than thou tone, abused his admin on the server a lot. He never once showed us his actual face or spoke on VC. Once he got busted, he dinged me pretending to be his brother saying that he had died. Then a couple days later his brother dinged me and said the doc's fucked up and has actually been in a coma for like 2 days but told me to tell you he feels betrayed that you never believed him. I blocked the fuck out of him when he dinged me a few months later saying sup bro, been a long time since I saw you. My ex-roommate did a whole lot of stupid shit for attention. She constantly posted things on social media like the world would be better off without me, nobody wants me alive etc. but she always refused to get actual help. When her boyfriend broke up with her, she went around telling everyone that she broke up with him after he raped her. She always bragged to people she had just met about how many guys she had been with, how much she loved weed and alcohol etc. She got engaged to her Tinder fuck buddy she had only known for a few months. And she made me homeless because her engagement was supposed to be a secret from her parents. They found out and she blamed me. So she made a whole bunch of shit up about me emotionally abusing her, even though that's what she was doing to me the entire time I lived with her. That way her parents would kick me out, they owned the loft we were staying in. I haven't spoken to her since I was kicked out, but from what I hear from other people, the psycho bitch is going nowhere in life. She got kicked out of her first choice university, dropped out of community college after failing all of her classes her first semester, and has been stuck as a cashier at a shitty grocery store for the past 2 years. Oh, and her Tinder fucked buddy broke the engagement with her right after I was made homeless. Guess he finally got a brain and realized she's insane. My little cousin is 4. One day we're at my nan's house and me and my mum were sat in the garden watching the children run around, when all of a sudden my little cousin runs inside for no reason, and started crying to her mum that she had fallen over and nobody helped her. She got a chocolate bar and a plaster. She didn't fall over, she just knew she'd get attention if she said she had ... Little shit has her parents sussed out already.